Hotel. Welcome to Journey in the Self. I'm your host, Sarah. Tonight, I wanted to do a topic that I feel is very important to do at this particular time. The topic for tonight is accountability versus blaming. Which path are we on? When I was doing my spiritual call some time ago, often the topic that I would choose would be based upon what I would observe going on in life, the patterns that I found myself experiencing in conversations that I would have with people, the theme of the counseling topics that I would engage in with people, discussions that I would have, whether it be at work, in social groups that I belong to, and just observing conversations, even observing social media interactions between people. And as I observe those things, I've noticed a lot of conflicts going on between people. Conflicts going on between Black men and Black women, for example. Conflicts going on between individuals over different things, conflicts going on in social media, conflicts going on in politics, conflicts going on in all different aspects of life. One thing that I noticed, which is a recurring theme, is that in all these conflicts, one person is pointing the finger at the other. One thing I want to point out, the name of the show is Journey in the Self. And I chose that name for a reason. Because life is a journey whose purpose is for us to gain a deeper understanding of ourselves. A journey to help us to realize and come into knowing of who we are, our true self. We learned when I was a member of the Aquarian Spiritual Center that the purpose of a Gnostic, of which we considered ourselves to be, is to peel back the veil of illusion that we have surrounding ourselves, the illusion that we are our bodies, the illusion that we are our minds, the illusion that we are our emotions and that our senses, and that we are controlled by these things, and that those things make us who we are, that our experiences make us who we are, that our heritage makes us who we are. At some levels, particularly the outer levels, some of those things are true. But truth is relative. And there are different layers of truth. And as we pull back the different layers of truth, we come to the conclusion that there is only one truth. But so truth is relative to our level of perception. So our objective, however, is to go beyond all of these outer layers, to go into the innermost part of our being. That's why I use the term understand, because our objective is to go deep within ourselves to find our true essence. So the journey of life is designed as an initiation process, if you will. We are all being initiated, whether knowingly or unknowingly. We are all going through an initiation. Many of us are going through it unconsciously. Those of us who have embarked on a spiritual path, we're going through a more intense initiation because we're going through it consciously. One of the characteristics of taking the responsibility to go on a spiritual path is that as soon as we do so, it appears that life becomes harder for us. We're faced with more challenges because in spirituality, part of our objective is to engage in reflection, in introspection. And as we engage in introspection and reflection, ideally, we become aware of our issues, our inner challenges. They come to the forefront. We also, by virtue of the fact that we have embarked on the spiritual path, we will attract to us challenges that will require us to engage in deeper introspection that will bring out our issues. We will attract people who will bring out our issues and challenge us. There is no chance, coincidence, or accident. As I always point out in the George Clinton song, Good Thoughts, Bad Thoughts, it says, there's no chance, coincidence, or accident in a world ruled by law and divine order. So nothing in life for any of us happens by chance. Everything is by design for us. So if we think of life as a master, a spiritual master, the master knows the makeup of the student, of the initiate or devotee, if you will. So the master, because of the depth of his knowledge or her knowledge of our makeup, will design a curriculum specially designed for us, given our makeup. given the challenges that we have to overcome, given our habits that we've developed, the attachments that we've developed over the course of different lifetimes, and even during the course of this current life. Some of the things that we are attached to, or the tendencies that we have, are carried over from different lifetimes. And so it's not always possible to trace all of our attachments back to something that occurred in this lifetime. And that's something that I teach in counseling. If you do counseling with me, part of the process is to help us to be able to identify our attachments and where they came from so that we can work to overcome them. And it's important that we be able to do that, because it's the attachments that evoke our reactions. It's not the other person. And that's important. I want to take a moment to read something that I posted. I think it was yesterday on Facebook. I wrote, understand that embarking on the spiritual path is akin to boarding a rocket. In the beginning stages, the rocket's ride is rough due to the strong pull of gravity. The rocket's engine must work hard to escape gravity's pull. Once the rocket achieves a sufficient distance from the Earth, the engine no longer needs to exert as much force. Once it is free from the pull of gravity, it glides easily through space. In the same way, when we embark on the path of spiritual ascension, the ride is rough, as we are wrestling to escape the gravitational pull of our ego. It is upon us to maintain constant awareness, focus, and determination, because this is the fuel that feeds the engine of our rocket. With our effort, we will achieve the weightlessness of God's grace that will make the ride more smooth. Travel well. So as I mentioned, when we do particularly consciously embark on a spiritual path, we will find ourselves being challenged more. We will experience life in such a way that it seems to be more difficult for us. Because now we're aware of some of the challenges that we individually have. We're not aware of all of them, but we know that we're supposed to be working on it. And because we've taken the spiritual path, we will be challenged to confront the issues, and we will be challenged to overcome them. My spiritual teacher says that in order for the doctor to be able to treat the patient first must acknowledge that he is a patient or she is a patient. We are all patients, and we are all being operated on by the same doctor. But we all have different diagnoses. And so the treatment for each of us is different. The experiences that each of us have are different. So when we have the experiences, it is incumbent upon us to engage in reflection, introspection, intro, inner, understand, right? It's not for us to look outside because the answer is not there. The answer is never outside. Their answer is always inside. It's inside of ourselves. Okay. So I said that to say that whatever issues that we're facing with others in all of our experiences typically have to do with others. The answers are not in trying to find fault with the other. The answer is not going to be achieved by trying to change others. Indeed, some people will even watch this and say that, you know, I like what he's saying. I know somebody who needs to hear this. I'm going to tell them to watch the recording because they really need this. Many of us will go and listen to a spiritual discourse, watch a spiritual master speak, read a spiritual book, and read different principles. We'll read things about how it's necessary for us to engage in mindfulness, introspection, self-awareness. And then the first thing that we'll do is try to think of somebody who could benefit from it and look to tell these people what they need to know. It's not for them, you know, or it may be, but that's for them to decide. Okay. We're not changing them. It's not our responsibility to change them. It's not possible for us to change them. Our responsibility is to look at ourselves, journey into self. Our responsibility is to engage in introspection, self-analysis, awareness, so that we can recognize how we are reacting to circumstances, because we're all going through initiation. We're all going through a test. The experiences, the interactions that we're having with people are designed to bring out the things that we need to work on in ourselves. The people that we interact with are our mirrors. I teach that in my seminar, Journey into Relationships, which stay tuned for. I'm planning to do an online journey into relationships, and I'll announce the date soon. But what I point out there is that relationships are mirrors. People are around us are mirrors. The people that we interact with and have relationships are mirrors to help us to be able to understand ourselves better. The universe is bringing those people into our lives for that purpose. We will invariably attract people to us that will push our buttons, that will evoke certain reactions in us, and they will evoke negative emotions in us. It's designed that way. But when that happens, it's not the objective for us to figure out how we're going to change them. We're not. We're not changing anyone. If we find ourselves repeating patterns of attracting the same type of people in our lives and that they're bringing negativity to us, it's us making the choice. It's not them. See, what happens so often now is that we will make poor choices about the people that we engage in relationships with. We will attract these people and we will go against our intuition telling us no, and we will choose to bring them into our lives. And then when the very things that intuition was warning us about occur, and if those things occur over and over again with different people, we never look in the mirror and take responsibility and hold ourselves accountable for our choices. We don't engage in reflection and realize that, you know, my intuition was warning me. I saw the red flags, but I ignored it. And I went forward with it anyway. We don't do that. Instead, we will make a blanket categorization. All men are this way. All women are that way. Never do we take responsibility for the choice we made. Never do we take responsibility for the vibrations that we're putting out, because vibration attracts like vibration. What's important here is to understand that since we attract based upon our vibration, and vibrations come in different forms. Vibration comes from the emotional state that we're in. Vibrations come from the nature of our thoughts, how we think about ourselves, how we think about the world, how we think about our environment, how we think about others, our attitude. Our emotions. What kind of emotional state are we in most of the time? Are we angry? Are we resentful? We will attract based upon like vibration. Are we holding on to pain? Are we holding on to past anger? We're just going to attract more of that. What are we saying? What is the nature of our speech? Speech is vibration. Thought is vibration. Emotions are vibration. What are we continually saying? If we're saying that all men are this and all women are that, if we're constantly putting that out in the universe, guess what we're going to attract? Just that which we said. if that's what we're thinking about all the time, if that's how we conceive things to be, then so it will be that way for us. And that is what we will experience. But does that make it a fact? No, it does not. That's our experience. It doesn't make it true. And so I see that all the time when I'm observing social media and seeing these things that people post, seeing the interactions that people are having. And there's always blaming, always pointing the finger. Never do I see anyone taking responsibility for their choices. That's not to say that all people are perfect. They're not. There are people who are at different stages of growth. But we don't have to interact with them. We don't have to let them in our lives. We're making that choice. They're good people too. Why aren't we attracting them? See, I'm not saying this just as based upon the books that I've read. This is not theoretical for me. Okay. The things that I've read, I've experienced and reflected upon. Right. I take responsibility for my decisions. I know that in my relationship experiences, the bad relationships that I had, I take full responsibility for the fact that I attracted them. And when I noticed that there was a pattern in the people that was attracting to me, at some point, finally, because I'm not immune to the blaming. There was some time when I engaged in that. But, at some point we have to mature and step back and look at things from a different perspective. Finally, I realized, why is it that I'm continually attracting the same person? Because I noticed it was the same thing that was happening, even though it was different people. So I didn't go out and conclude that all women were a certain way. It was all the women that I was attracted was a certain way. So there was something that I needed to change about myself. I needed to do more work on myself. It's fruitless for me to go and try to change another person. That's their responsibility. It's not mine. It's not anyone's responsibility to change anyone else. And it's not possible. Our job is not to fix someone. In ancient Kemet, ancient Egypt, the saying goes, which was also adopted by the Greeks, physician, heal thyself. That's what we're supposed to be doing. Again, is journey in the self. In the temples, it's inscribed, know thyself, not know the other person. You can't. You're never going to know what people are thinking. You're not going to know why they're thinking the way they're thinking. It's not your job to know that. Our job is to know us. Our job is to know why we're thinking what we're thinking, why we're reacting to things the way that we react. When we notice ourselves reacting to something and feeling a negative emotion, it's not them doing anything to us. And I'll expound upon that maybe a little later here or on another show. But it's not them doing anything to us. So again, it's not for us to try to change the other person. The first thing that we should do in that circumstance is to try to understand ourselves. Why does, when that person say this, do I feel this way? Why, when I encounter this circumstance, do I feel this way? Why is it not possible for me to be able to stay calm? Even though I'm doing spiritual practices and I'm meditating, this person is still pushing my buttons. It's not them. It's us. Thank you, Brother Hassan. So it's, again, it's always about us. We will go back and be able to find that there was something in our past that initially evoked that emotion, and that we're reliving that situation, that circumstance, when we're triggered based upon something that we recognize as being similar to that experience. So we're reacting. A reaction is not something that we're doing consciously. So it's important for us to be able to understand what the root cause of that reaction is. Again, we're not changing anyone. Now, if you put that in the context there, okay, if we realize that we are not being present in the moment, that when we experience a negative emotion that is not based upon something that is happening to us right now, the reaction is based upon something that has happened to us in the past, that we're not in control of how we're reacting in that particular moment. Okay, it's a reaction. When we realize that, then we realize as well that that's the case for everyone else. It's no different. Everyone has, though our experiences are different, and we have different triggers based upon those different experiences, all of our experiences are similar in the respect of how it has affected us. So we're all reacting. That's why all the spiritual masters and the esoteric spiritual teachings, all teachers, no matter what spiritual perspective that you're coming from, they're all going to emphasize being present. It doesn't matter whether you're into Gnostic Christianity or Sufi or Buddhist, Hindu, any spiritual philosophy throughout the world, they will always emphasize being present in the moment. Okay. But most of us aren't. Most of us are reacting. So if we realize that everyone is reacting, then no one is actually even doing anything to us because they're not even here. We're not here. We're in the past. Now, that's not to say that we reach a point where if we've attracted someone into our lives, that there isn't a point when we may have to part ways. We learn the spirituality, the ability to be able to have equanimity in all situations, to be able to be at peace through all of our experiences. That is one of the disciplines that we aspire to as spiritual aspirants. That said, however, we want to be able to be in a peaceful place, in a peaceful space. We don't have to be in a storm. Our spiritual principles and the application of our spiritual principles is like our umbrella. And we put the umbrella up when we're in the midst of a storm. But we don't have to stay in storms. You know, we should be able to meditate anywhere. We should be able to meditate even if there is noise around us. We should be able to be at peace. But we don't go and meditate next to the freeway. We go and find a peaceful space to meditate. We'll meditate at home at our altar, in our room, or in the meditation room if we have one. We'll go to the beach to go meditate somewhere peaceful and calm. But it shouldn't be required for us to do that. We should be able to do, if we can't find that, we should be able to meditate peacefully, even in the midst of a lot of noise. We should be able to be at peace. But we want to seek a peaceful place, right? And so if we're in a situation that is not peaceful, then there is a point when it's time to leave that situation and to seek a more peaceful one. So with respect to relationships, each of us, all of us, have the responsibility, particularly if we have embarked on a spiritual path. We have the responsibility for our growth. So if we're in a relationship and the partner that we're with is not engaging in the introspection, self-awareness, self-growth, taking responsibility and holding themselves accountable to the decisions and choices that they make, if they're constantly blaming you and you're taking responsibility, then of course, you're not growing. You're growing apart. And so, just as I talked about, from an intuition standpoint, your intuition will reveal to you when it's time to leave that situation. Sometimes the the experiences that we have and some of the choices that we've made, even though our intuition has warned us, we were supposed to have that experience. Everyone has choice. Okay. And so there could be a possibility that it could work out. Again, the intuition always knows. You follow your intuition, you won't make a bad decision. Uh, Now, but everyone still has choice, right? And so everyone will have a crossroads moment where it'll be that a key experience will come where we will be compelled to to take responsibility and to chart a new course. You know, particularly if it's in a relationship, there will be a crucial moment where it's time to stop pointing the finger and blaming and to step back and to look at oneself and say, how can I change? What is going on with me? What do I need to change about myself? How can I grow? I have attracted these circumstances. I am creating the environment. There's no chance, coincidence, or accident. I'm contributing to this situation. How can I change so that I'm no longer contributing to that? How can I grow? All of the experiences that we have are for our growth, all of them. When I reflect on some experiences that I've had in life, not all of them were pleasant to me at the time. In fact, they're still not pleasant to me now. But I'm appreciative of them because of the lesson that I got from them. I didn't understand the lesson as I was going through it. I didn't like it as I was going through it. But I have no regrets about anything that I've experienced because I've been able to take those things and learn from them. And so all of those experiences have helped to facilitate my growth. And that's what we should all do. We may not like all the experiences that we have, but we attracted them for a reason. And we benefit from them, even though as we're experiencing it, them, we may not like it. But if we maintain a state of awareness, if we're engaged in introspection, if we're maintaining self-awareness, we will be able to identify the lesson that lies therein. And then we will be able to take that lesson and apply it to our lives and grow and experience uh, and grow from the experience. If any of you are football fans, you'll note that when your favorite team loses, they don't sit there and complain and whine and cry about the circumstances. They don't blame the other team for cheating. They don't sit there and just and blame the referee and everything but themselves. What they'll do with the head coach, they'll go back and review the game film. And they'll look at the film to identify the mistakes that they've made, to evaluate how they reacted to what the opponent was doing. And then they use that information to be able to effectively plan for the next game. They develop a new game plan. And so they're responding to the lesson by altering their plan to develop a strategy to use going forward. They don't spend time mired in the past. They don't continue to react to what happened. They have to let it go and use the information as a lesson to draft a new plan, a new way of going forward. And after you've done that, you don't need the film anymore. You're done with that. It's no longer relevant to us, unless we might need to review it again in order to see if we've missed something so that we can plan what we're going to do now. Because it's always about now. But it's not about going back and pointing fingers and blaming. We have to realize that we made choices and that we need to make new choices if we're not happy with the choices that we've made. I've seen people blaming in every aspect of life in my experience. I see people blame on my job. I see people blame in social media, pointing fingers. I see it in politics. I even see it amongst so-called conscious people. I see it amongst people who say that they're spiritual. Because people are people. None of us are perfect, unless we're a spiritual master. I'm not a spiritual master. I'm not perfect either. There's still things for me to learn. There's still room for me to grow. And so everything that I'm saying to you right now applies to me equally. I have to look at myself, and if I catch myself blaming or pointing fingers, it's time for me to change my perspective and look back at myself and look at my choices, look at what I'm thinking about, looking at evaluating what my current emotional state is and regulating it such that I'm not putting that type of energy to attract something into my life that I don't want. Because we are attracting, whether we are doing it intentionally or not, We are always attracting based upon the vibrations that we're putting out, and we're always putting out vibrations, always. So that's why it's important that we be mindful. Is upon us to maintain constant awareness of ourselves, not to engage in constant criticism of others, because that is a complete waste of time and a shirking of our own responsibilities. You can blame other people if you want to. Nothing is going to change as a result. You'll just be repeating the same patterns and attracting the same circumstances and the same people in your lives, getting the same results as you always have. And then you'll be blanketly categorizing and saying that all people are this way, when the problem is not them, the problem is us. The problem is you. The problem is me if I'm doing that. Okay. So again, I'm not going to be pointing fingers either. Okay. So, I'm responsible just as everyone else is. Okay. So it's upon us to always be in constant reflection, constant introspection, to always be looking for the lesson, because we're always being taught. There's always something for us to gain from the circumstances, to gain from our interactions with people. If we're in a relationship, is even more so necessary for us to do that, because we attracted that in relationship to escalate our growth. And the only way that that relationship is going to grow is through taking responsibility individually for our growth, not by blaming our relationship partner. That's for him or her to do. They have to look at themselves and identify their own issues and take responsibility to address them and overcome them. If both people don't do that, there won't be a relationship. If one person doesn't, the other one doesn't, there won't be a relationship. If neither does it, there certainly won't be a relationship. But if both people do that and come together and take responsibility for their individual growth and help support each other in their growth, then they can have a successful relationship. So with that, I will end. I want to say that look out soon, probably within the next couple of days, I'll be posting the date of the journey into self relationships. I'll be posting the date of the journey into relationships seminar, and I highly encourage you, if you're in a relationship, want to be in a relationship, was in a relationship, and want to understand what happened, I highly encourage that you sign up for that seminar. I guarantee that you will gain something from it, and it will benefit you, and it will be something that you have not heard before. I guarantee you that. And it will help you. Okay. I'm setting up a Facebook page and called Journey into Relationship. So some of you I'll be inviting directly into it. And then, if you feel like there's somebody else who will benefit from it, please send them my way. And then, as well, if you would like to avail yourself of my counseling services, then please reach out to me. Don't be concerned about the monetary thing. We'll work things out. So because the bottom line is helping people. Right? Brother Jamal asks, what if you're purposely trying to forget about a relationship? Can you help? Uh, yes, of course I can help. Uh, there are some relationships that we need to forget. But before we forget them, I think it's important that we learn the lesson from it and then forget it. And it probably benefit us to not listen to too much Sade, especially not Lovers Rock. That might change our emotional state now and make us think too much about some bad relationship or some heartbreak situation or whatever. Um, you know, I recommend the funk as well. Always to uplift one's spirit. Okay, so yeah, so do reach out to me right now. Just feel free to reach out to me. On Facebook. I'm also on Instagram and Twitter. But reach out to me with Messenger, or you can just send me a message on my post or whatever, and we work something out for you. I'm working on the website, so you can sign up there once we get that straight and set up, and so you can sign up for your counseling there. So with that, I thank you for tuning in. I know that this will be beneficial to you, and if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me on Facebook. So with that, I wish you peace and the ancient Kemetic words, Hotep.